Drive Carefully media event. Thank you to all of our partners we have here today. Although driver safety is important throughout the year, it is especially important during back-to-school time. Every student deserves to arrive to school safely and return home safely. And with that being said, I would like to introduce the Georgia Public Affairs Director with AAA, Garrett Townsend.
Believe it or not, in just a few days, the children in Fulton County will be heading back to school. In fact, in Georgia, 1.6 million children are going to be starting school, or in some cases have started school already. We're past the summer. Now it's time to get back to school. AAA Schools Open Drive Carefully press event, the campaign has been in existence since 1946. But the truth is, the message is just as relevant, or even more so today, than it was back then. Well, why do we say that? The fact is, in 1946, there were not as many distractions as there are today. Children who rode their bike to school didn't have to compete with other modes of transportation. Parents who dropped their children off didn't have the distraction of a cell phone. But today, all of those dangers exist in and around the school zone. So that's why we say the message is just as important, maybe even more important today than it was then. AAA has just a few reminders that we'd like to remind motorists of as the children head back to school here in Fulton County and across the state. The first one we've already discussed. Eliminate distractions. Focus on the task of getting your child to and from school. If you don't have a child, you're just driving through the school zone. Focus on getting through there safely. Distractions certainly present so many dangers that put not only ourselves in danger, but put other motorists, pedestrians, bicycle riders, other road users in danger. So eliminate distractions. The second one is to slow down. The speeds in the school zone are there for a specific reason. And the data shows that just a 10 mile per hour increase in speed leads to a greater likelihood of an injury or fatality. So slow down, pay attention to the posted speeds in those school zones. The next reminder that we'd like to mention is talk to your teens. Talk to your teens. Well, exactly what does that mean? For so many teens, the summer is a rite of passage for them to go out and get their driver's license. And that's a great, joyous occasion. But for many of those teens, this potentially is the first time that they've driven through school zones while schools were open. This may be the first time that they've had to share the road with a school bus. So do they understand what it means when the school lights are on? When the stop sign comes out? Do they know what they're supposed to do? Do they know how to share the road? When they go through school zones, do they understand why those posted speed signs are there? So we urge parents to have a conversation with your child, perhaps even doing a run-through, so that they understand the rules of the road, so that they can navigate safely through the school zones. The last reminder really is for those parents that are going to be taking those little kiddies to school, perhaps even for the first time. In so many cases, we find as those vehicles pull up in the drop-off zones, that those children many times are not in the proper size child passenger seat. Perhaps it's not correctly installed. It's not appropriate for their age. So we're urging parents that have young children to make sure that the children are in a proper seat, child passenger seat, the proper one for their size, and make sure that it's correctly installed. If you have any questions on that, we urge you to look at safekidsgeorgia.com. And then also many of the fire departments also have child passenger technicians to make sure that that child is in the proper seat. All of these reminders, whether you're a parent or just a motorist on the Georgia roadway, if we pay attention to these things, if we slow down, if we watch out for other road users, then that will enable all Fulton County schools, in fact, all children across the state of Georgia to have a happy, healthy school year. Next, I'd like to introduce Mr. Mike Sanders. He's the Director of Pupil Transportation for the Georgia Department of Transportation. Mike?
Good morning. As stated, my name is Mike Sanders. I am the Director of Pupil Transportation for the Georgia Department of Education. As schools open around the state, school buses will soon be back on the roads. I urge every Georgian to stay alert, brush up on the law regarding passing stop buses, and remember that doing the right thing and following those laws could save a child's life. Today's school buses are built safer, they're cleaner, and are more diligently maintained than ever before. Their flashing red lights, size, and color make them highly visible to all with whom they share the road. As we begin another school year, we request that you be aware that our students will be walking along our streets to gather at bus stops. When a school bus is present, slow down in your automobile, allow a safe distance between you and the school bus, and practice patience. Remember, according to Georgia law, vehicles traveling in both directions must stop when a school bus activates its stop arm on a two-lane road or a multi-lane road with no median or barrier. Vehicles traveling in the same direction as a school bus must always stop. A warning that a bus stop is about to take place will always be given with flashing yellow lights on the front and rear of the bus. Remember that flashing red lights are an indication that students are loading and unloading a school bus at that time. Vehicles must stop and remain stopped until all students are aboard in the morning or all passengers are unloaded in the afternoon. If the red lights are flashing, you should remain stopped. Always pay attention to children, as we all know they can be unpredictable. Be focused and exercise caution when in the vicinity of a school bus stop. The foundation of pupil transportation program in the whole state of Georgia is student safety. Again, your decision to remain alert and follow the law may very well mean saving a life. Remember, there is no safe way to illegally pass a school bus, so be cautious when sharing the road. Finally, let others know that putting our children's lives at risk at school bus stops is not okay. Thank you for partnering with us to ensure every child can be transported safely to and from school each and every day. Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Miss Vicki, Vicki Cross. I know that, Vicki. I'm sorry. Let me introduce Miss Vicki Cross, Executive Director of Transportation for Fulton County Schools.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning. What a wonderful opportunity for the partnerships represented here today, all with the same goal, keeping Georgia students safe. Fulton County Transportation is a frontline support service to all its instructional programs. Our transportation mission sounds simple: to deliver students to their destinations on time and in a frame of mind ready to learn. But to live up to that mission requires the extraordinary efforts of our qualified school bus drivers, monitors, mechanics, and our management staff. Fulton County school bus drivers and monitors are dedicated to the safety of your children and in creating a welcoming environment on their school bus, all while navigating every major thoroughfare through the metro Atlanta area. Quite a challenge. Fulton County Schools opens their school doors and their school bus doors on Monday, August 7th. We ask our communities and motorists for their patience as we load and unload our students, to stop when the school bus stop sign and red lights are activated, and to make sure to follow all the laws and safety standards on our roadways. Thank you for your renewed dedication to the safety of Georgia students as school begins. And now I would like to introduce the Director of the Governor's Office of Highway Safety, Mr. Alan Poole.
Thank you, Miss Vicky. Good morning. We're going to try to get this in before it rains. I don't want my hair to get wet. I want to thank our news partners for helping us get this message out today. The Governor's Office of Highway Safety is honored to work with our great partners, AAA. Thank you, Garrett. AAA started the Schools Open Drive Carefully Safety Tour in 1946. This message remains as important today as it was 76 years ago. I want to thank the Fulton County School System for hosting this Atlanta stop on our tours. And we're here today to remind everyone that summer vacation is not only ending for students, but it's also ending for normal commuting drivers as well. The start of the school year means drivers need to keep their eyes on the road. They need to slow down in school zones with slower speed limits, and they need to be ready to stop for children that's crossing the streets and in case they're getting off a school bus. Georgia school bus drivers reported earlier this year that it was more than 7,800 illegal passings by school buses on one day. That averaged to 1.4 million times a school bus in Georgia was illegally passed based on a 180-day school year. There is nothing more important than protecting our children, especially when they're going to and from school each day. Georgia law requires Georgians on the same roadway as the school bus to stop when the school bus activates the stop arm or the stop lights. Drivers who are in the opposite travel lane from the school bus on a road that is divided by a physical barrier, let me restate, a physical barrier, do not have to stop because the barrier placed them on a separate roadway. And let me remind each of you, a center turn lane on a multi-lane road is not a legal barrier that divides the highway. Drivers going to both directions on the road with a center turn lane are required to stop by law when a school bus has its stop lights and stop arm activated. Let me repeat that. Drivers going in both directions that only have a center turn lane are required to stop by law when they've got their stop arm and their stop lights activated. The data shows that school buses are the safest way for us to transportation for our kids to get to and from school each and every day. But the most dangerous part of that commute is when they're getting on and off the school bus. That is why we need to slow down in school zones and keep our eyes on the road and be ready to stop for school buses that's loading and unloading, and we need to be ready to stop for children that's in the crosswalk. Our goal is to reach 0 deaths, so we're here asking every one of us to do our part when it comes to keeping our children safe when they're going to and from school each and every day. So please remember, vacation is over with, but we want you to pay attention and we want you to slow down in school zones when our little people are headed back to school. Thank you so much. And now let me introduce Lieutenant Hudson from the Motor Carrier of Georgia. Lieutenant.
Thank you, Director Poole. Again, my name is Lieutenant Anthony Hudson with Georgia Department of Public Safety. I'd just like to take a few minutes of your time. Whether it's your first time putting one of your loved ones on a school bus or not, I would like to let you know Fulton County Schools buses are safe and they're ready to transport your loved ones up and down Georgia roads. The Department of Public Safety's Motor Carrier Compliance Division has a specialized unit that travels around the state of Georgia to make sure every school bus is inspected annually. Last year alone, we did over 20,000 buses that consisted of 139 counties and 35 municipalities. So the buses are safe. They're ready to transport your loved ones. Now, our inspections consist of 3 tiers. The department's officer does the annual inspection that's required to do yearly. The Board of Education's mechanics are required to do a PM inspection every 20 days. And then the bus driver, he or she, is required to do an inspection before they start their trip and after they end their trip to make sure that these buses are ready to transport your loved ones. Now, I can truly say the Department of Public Safety, along with the Board of Education, we've done our part. Now we ask you to do your part by putting down the cell phones, paying attention to your surroundings, giving yourself a little extra time to get from point A to point B, and also slowing down in school zones, because it takes us all to work together to make our roads safer for our kids. With that being said, anytime you see one of these buses, you should automatically assume that a kid is preparing to load the bus or unload the bus. So you should be ready to stop, slow down, and pay attention, because it takes us all working together to make our roads safer to get our kids to and from school. Again, I'd like to thank the Governor's Office of Highway Safety, the Fulton County School System, and AAA for having us participate in this very special event. Thank you for your time.
And that concludes the AAA Schools Open Drive Carefully media event. Thank you to all of our media we have here today. Individuals will be available for interviews. Thank you again and drive safe.